is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. And our special guest tonight is two of the members of a Las Vegas-based band, Baker's Dozen. And tonight we're talking with lead singer Tommy Elliot, who I've previously had the pleasure of interviewing. And today he also brought his bandmate, lead guitarist Zach Ruble. Welcome to the show, guys. And tonight we're talking about the fact that 2019 marks the 40th anniversary of AC/DC's legendary Highway to Hell album, and we're talking to you two guys about that because last time I interviewed Tommy, he shared with me that him and Zach were previously in an AC/DC tribute band prior to Baker's Dozen. So I thought, what other two guys would be better to talk to about AC/DC? So first of all, Tommy or Zach, I don't know who wants to start this off, but talk a little bit about what AC/DC means to you and kind of how they came on your guys' radar.
That's totally crazy that would be your first question, because I was thinking that's what you would ask me. But this is Tommy, man, and I personally, to me, I was more always a Zeppelin guy, and a buddy of mine heard me sing and compared my voice to Bond and said, "Hey, man, I always listened to Highway to Hell in high school and all that stuff, and Back in Black, and I love Power Rich and High Voltage and stuff like that. But I love Sabbath, and I was a little more into the heavier stuff."
Okay.
They have absolutely grew on to me to the point of being in an AC/DC tribute band where we're actually wearing the costumes. I'm wearing my sister's pants with, my ball prints on them, man, as snug as they can be being Bond, and I got the vest on, and I've got a curly wig on, and I'm emulating him to the point that when we perform now in Baker's Dozen, he is still there.
Well,
the way I hold the microphone and everything. And Zach is still Angus.
Well, now before we talk to you, Zach, I want to tell you, Tommy, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that you were such a big Led Zeppelin fan, because, and again, doing research for this, I got this information off, if you go on the AC/DC Wikipedia, all the previously albums before Highway to Hell were produced by George Young, who of course was Malcolm and Angus's older brother, and he was a successful musician in his own right in Australia. And by the time they recorded, Highway to Hell, the record company Atlantic told them, we want you guys not to go with your brother this time. We want to use an outside producer. And of course, Malcolm and Angus weren't too happy about that. And the guy they initially wanted to get to, this is the Atlantic Records, to get to produce Highway to Hell was, of all people, Eddie Kramer, who of course went on to produce, he previously produced Led Zeppelin and Kiss and Jimi Hendrix. And he kind of had a falling out with the brothers for the simple fact that they met up with him in the studio, and they were getting ready to record, and I guess they had a few rehearsals, and Eddie Kramer went up to Angus and Malcolm and said, "Hey, you guys, can your singer, can he sing?" And they were so insulted by what he was saying that they said, we're not going to work with this bloke."
was this with Bond, man, with Ronald Belford Scott?
Yes.
Eddie Kramer actually asked if Bond could sing. That's that's kind of insulting.
Yeah, like I said, if you guys want to, research this, like I said, just later go on the Wikipedia for AC/DC.
Yeah, wow, I can't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting now. So what's your story, Zach, as far as how you first became an AC/DC fan?
Oh, man, when I started playing music at a young age, man, I just was discovering all these bands my dad introduced me to, and the first band, honestly, man, for me was Deep Purple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like Ritchie Blackmore was my world for a little bit, man. And right after that, my dad gave me Highway to Hell as my second album. My first album was Space Truckin', or
Machine Head.
Machine Head?
Yeah.
Machine Head. Space Truckin'.
Yeah. That's right.
See, what? Those were your first two albums, was Highway to Hell and Space. Dude, I got a smoking guitar player, bro. I'm lucky, and he's my writing partner too. But we met in the AC/DC band, man, and that's how we kind of formed Baker's Dozen. But dude, those are your first two albums.
Wow. I could talk all day to you guys about Ritchie Blackmore and what I think of him. But what I also what I always loved about Deep Purple, just kind of get off subject for a minute, was I always love the fact that Deep Purple. You hear all the time people say, "Oh, keyboards suck," and that, but you put on any. Well, look what John Lord did. That's my point I was getting to. Look at what that man was able to do with that electric piano.
For real, the B3 with the Leslie all whirling around, you put that shit on headphones back when you were a kid. Deep Purple was literally bouncing around in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys ever seen Deep Purple play live, but I will tell you, Deep Purple is one of those bands that you're not going to get the same band that you hear on record. But record is one thing, but they take it to the next level live. I mean, it's almost like an ultimate jam session. They're jamming on one song for like 30 minutes, but they do not disappoint.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to AC/DC, now, how did you guys meet? Like, did you know each other from school? And was the band already formed, Tommy, when you joined, or did you guys kind of form a project together?
They had been around for a while, and I'd been in them for probably 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And
then our Angus left, and we were kind of Angusless for a short time. And then Zach miraculously appeared out of nowhere, man, and became our Angus, and we played together in High Voltage for a few years, and kind of got sick of the tribute thing and said, hey, let's
do our own thing.
Overhead, punk rock, and the heavier shit, man. We said, let's try to write some tunes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because when I listen to your Baker's Dozens album, to my ear, you guys definitely do have a punk element. And kind of when I talked to you last, I was saying you guys almost, to me, like you have a real Sex Pistols thing going, although your own sound at the same time.
Right on.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because talking about Highway to Hell and AC/DC, to me, AC/DC, especially with Bon Scott, although they're a metal hard rock band, they definitely, especially with Bon, had kind of a punk element to what they were doing early on.
Yes, the edge. There was absolutely a punk edge. There was more like a blues punk. Right. Because they were electric blues punk.
Yeah.
Did I invent something?
Yeah.
Yeah, now, Zach, being that you're a guitar player, I kind of wanted to ask you, like, obviously you played the role in your band of Angus Young, but what do you think of, the brothers together, like Angus and Malcolm? Because, I mean, well, Angus, you cannot go wrong with. He's just a great lead player, but Malcolm also, I mean, he really held the foundation of that band. I mean, he's one of the all-time great rhythm players, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, the way he attacked the strings and the way he just kept up with the rhythm, and, I mean, in the writing of AC/DC, man, with Mal, I mean, he was the heart and soul of that band.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, the two brothers together, they wrote most of the stuff. I mean, a lot of the singers, Bon Scott, he was involved with writing, obviously, but those two guys, that's why it doesn't really matter if it's Bon Scott or Brian Johnson in the band. It all sounds like AC/DC,
Right, yeah.
And it's kind of funny because I do think, since Malcolm Young has passed on, they've got these other guys in the band now, and they've been carrying on the last couple of years, and it's not quite the same, but AC/DC, if you know what I mean, it always sounds like AC/DC, and I think it's kind of like Queen. The fact that these are just such great songs, they've stood the test of time. I think that's why you're able to get anybody who's a halfway decent musician in the band. They're able to pull it off.
See, and that's the thing too, man. A lot of people think AC/DC, like the songs, like when people listen to it, it's simple. But when you're actually playing the songs,
they think
it's pretty technical stuff, man. I mean, if you think about it.
It's like Chuck, bro. It's electric. It's more sped up Chuck. It's like you mix Chuck Berry and Motorhead in a blender.
Wow, I've never heard that, but it's kind of funny you say it because a lot of guys I've talked to, if you listen to AC/DC, it sounds pretty simplistic. It sounds like it's based on like a three-chord.
No, all those downstrokes, man, that Mal's doing on the rhythm, that shit's not easy. It made, I mean, doing the chords and everything may be right, but having the inflection and the feeling that they bring across, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about, you're talking to a guy who's not a musician, so I know very little, but just based on what you hear, my point, a lot of people have that belief, and a lot of the musicians I've talked to over years, they've shared that with me. This stuff may sound simple to play, but let me tell you, it's quite something different than what you might think.
But I think stuff that actually sounds simple is what goes right to people's hearts, man.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, as AC/DC fans, I got to ask you guys, because, again, a lot of times it doesn't really matter which song you're listening to. It's all good, and a lot of the songs sound like AC/DC. A lot of it, people say, it all sounds the same, but you really don't get people complaining too much because, again, it's just all good music.
Right.
Yeah. And now, so you guys, now the tribute band kind of... I guess you moved on to Baker's Dozen, but do you ever feel a desire to do like a little one-off show or anything like that ever?
We actually still throw AC/DC in our set as covers, man.
Oh, that's
that it never goes away. We're still joining the hip a little bit with AC/DC, and even in Baker's dozen.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. And the another thing I was reading about regarding this album, Highway to Hell, is ultimately they got Mutt Lange, who of course would go on to great success with Def Leppard, and when you consider that, it makes sense that would be the first 5 albums. That would be the one that would be kind of the most polished, because I mean that's what that guy's known for. And I was reading also on the Wikipedia that when Mutt first started working with the band and they went in the studio, he was kind of telling Angus, "Hey, because I guess Mutt Lange is a musician as well as producer, and he got a pretty good voice, and he was singing along with some of the songs, like doing the background."
I heard he was a real taskmaster in the studio during that album to the guys.
Yeah, so much to the case that he actually told Angus Young. Not saying that he couldn't play or anything, but he's like, hey Angus, why don't you sit here next to me? I'm sitting here in the producer's chair. You sit in the chair next to me, and he's kind of pointing to Angus on his guitar, what string to play and what to do, and
oh my Lord.
And it's kind of interesting. And Angus kind of said, oh, you're gonna tell me what to play, but I guess they were happy with what came out,
Right? Oh my God!
Know that.
No, yeah, that's crazy. How did you? Yeah, wow.
And I gotta tell you, my top 3 tracks off this album, you never go wrong with Highway to Hell, the title track. And then I never go wrong. I love If You Want Blood, You Got It. I mean, just the title of that, it's got to be good. You know what I mean? And that's the thing.
We covered that one. We used to do that one. We're actually thinking of throwing Walk All Over You into our set.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe Riff Raff. Dude.
Oh, Riff Raff. Yeah, we used to do that one too.
And so, especially you, Zach, since you were saying Highway to Hell was like your second album, I was kind of curious. You're obviously a diehard AC/DC fan, so around 1980 when Bon passed away, what were your initial feelings? How did you react to that?
Honestly, man, I was crushed because AC/DC. When I think of AC/DC, man, it's Bon Scott. I mean, I'm not. I mean,
are you hating on Ron?
No, I'm not hating on
Yeah.
I am.
There's nothing wrong with.
Sorry, no, there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with Brian Johnson.
No,
I just think of AC/DC.
I think of Bon, man. I do.
Well,
good time songs.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like the Ace of Spades album from Motorhead. Every song on there is that way, and the Bon Scott catalog is that way too.
Yeah,
it's stuff that you want to put on in a backyard kegger. I mean, every album that he did.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny that because AC/DC fans always get into this argument, who's better, Bon or Brian? And it's kind of 2 different worlds, but it's all AC/DC. Now, the funny thing is when people point to the Bon Scott era, probably the most 2 albums they point to are Highway to Hell and Let There Be Rock. And with Brian Johnson, probably the album that gets pointed to the most is obviously Back in Black. Those are like the 2 premier AC/DC albums.
Well, there is for those about to rock. Who Made Stu?
Who Made Who?
Oh yeah, see now, Who Made Who? The thing I loved about that album, it was primarily like a greatest hits album. That was the one new track I think they did for a Stephen King film, but that was like my favorite track because I loved all the other tracks, but they were older tunes, and I thought, for just putting out one new tune, that's a great tune. Who made who? Who made you? And see, that's the thing with AC/DC songs, who made who? It's like, what is the song even about? It doesn't really make sense if you listen to the lyrics. But it's just fun music.
What was your favorite song to play guitar-wise from the Highway to Hell album?
Oh my God, I've always liked Beating Around the Bush.
Okay.
That was a fun song to play on guitar, and then Night Prowler.
Dude,
Night Prowler.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And the other song I love off that album, Shot Down in Flames.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually the one that we'd start off the show with. That I would. That's the first one I would sing during the night of our shows.
And then another I know all-time favorite AC/DC fans have. It's kind of like a little under the radar though. Girls Got Rhythm.
Oh yeah. Dude, love it.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to believe as we sit here talking about this today that 40 years has gone by since that album goes by, and I don't think Zach, you have anything to apologize. Saying, well, I kind of prefer Bon over Brian. That's when you became a fan, and so So that makes sense that album and that time in the band's period would mean a little more to even the Brian Johnson stuff. Now, once in 1980 came and it was announced that Bon had passed, how did you feel initially? Do you think the band would carry on? And when it was announced that they were getting a new singer, what were your thoughts on that?
I honestly felt like the band would carry on. I mean,
could they not?
Coming. I mean, it was because I wouldn't think they would discontinue.
Mm-hmm.
Because of Bon passing. I mean, that really hit me hard. But I mean, I'm glad they found someone to replace.
It was similar to the same feeling as when Cliff Burton passed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Same type of vibe, man. Same feeling. You're like going, what the hell? They're huge. They're starting to get onto their pinnacle. What's going on?
Yeah.
This can't die.
Can't die now. Come on, we got to carry on. And on that note, recently, they did a tour a couple years back without Brian Johnson. I guess he was suffering from some hearing loss or whatever, and they went and did some live shows with Axl Rose. How do you guys feel about that? Did either one of you guys catch the band with Axl?
I watched a lot of the live footage and a couple concerts on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I know that back in GNR's early days, they used to do Rosie and Riff Raff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was in their sets.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me at all. I kind of liked it.
Yeah,
and people are out there getting their rock and roll on, man.
Yeah.
They're out there trying to make people happy by playing music and doing songs that people want to hear.
And to me, the cool thing about it was, obviously Axl, and he's admitted this, is a major AC/DC fan, so much to the point that you've heard stories about Guns N' Roses shows where he's notorious back in the day for showing up late or not showing up at all, and he had none of that going on when he's doing these shows with AC/DC, and I think for a simple fact he just had so much respect for the guys,
Yeah, I absolutely believe that came from love and respect of people that he looked up to.
Oh yeah.
And that influenced him.
And there was talk about that they might do an album with him, but I kind of think
I heard Brian's coming back.
Yeah, it was recently announced that they've been working on an album. Apparently, they found some material they worked on. Apparently, they have a huge AC/DC vault of just stuff they recorded over years. Apparently, they came across this stuff they recorded with Malcolm before he died, and they thought, wouldn't this be great if we could put one final album together, have Malcolm on there, use the stuff he recorded, and we'll and the rest of the band will just record their stuff. And Cliff Williams had retired, but he's agreed to come back. Brian is coming back, and I think that's kind of just the way they decided to go out.
Like a Let It Be, an AC/DC Let It Be album, one final good studio album. That's awesome.
And apparently they're going to go on tour. So
they are going to tour.
Yeah, I've been reading stuff on the internet. Going to be announced soon, AC/DC tour. And if that's the case, I think again, like you guys are saying, what a way to go out on.
Right? Yeah. On top, man.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. And so, I got to also tell you guys, as far as you guys being an AC/DC tribute, now, tell me how you feel about this, because I have a lot of respect for the tribute band scene for the simple fact, again, I'm not a musician, so anybody that can get up and do what you guys do, just even playing other people's music, I got a huge amount of respect for, but there are people out there that feel tribute bands, they're just playing other people's music, but I like to call it rock and roll theater, especially like you guys are saying. You actually dress up the part. You dress up as Bon, and Zach would dress up, as Angus or whatever. That's rock and roll theater, and that makes it that much more fun. For the simple fact, a lot of people, we didn't get to see AC/DC back in the day, so maybe they come and see your band, and it gives them a taste of it. Yeah.
Zach would even do the striptease during the Jack, so it's almost more rock and roll burlesque than anything else. But we're the same type of people. That's kind of what pushed us to go and form Baker's Dozen, was we got sick of it and thought, okay, this can only go on for so long playing other people's music, and after a while the crowds start to dwindle a little bit once people can only go and see AC/DC so many times.
Right.
Yeah, and then so obviously you guys are an AC/DC fan, but I got to ask what do you think of some of the other guys in the band, like Phil Rudd? I think he's just one of the best drummers of all time,
Absolutely, up there with Joey Kramer, and I mean he's Phil Taylor, dude. He's a god.
Yeah. You cannot go wrong with those guys. And so
rock solid, man, for sure.
So we're kind of all over the place here, but like, what would you say would be your all-time favorite? Like, give me your top 5 AC/DC songs.
Go ahead, Zach. You first.
All right. Number 1 has to be Bad Boy Boogie.
Oh, okay.
2 would probably be. I've always liked Live Wire.
Okay, wow. And that's not Motley Crue's Live Wire. That's the original Live Wire for anybody.
That's bullshit.
If you're looking for trouble, I'm the man to see.
Yeah, I always liked that one, man. Beating Around the Bush for 3.
Oh.
Did I say Riff Raff?
Yes.
And then
you say
I gotta say Kick in the Teeth.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, mine. He took Live Wire because Live Wire is definitely one of mine as well. Because we used to start the show with that. Remember?
Oh, great.
Walk All Over You, Touch Too Much, Sin City, and Let There Be Rock.
And Touch Too Much, that's another great song off of the Highway to Hell album we've been talking about.
I love the way that the two flow into each other.
Yeah, and too, listening to these songs like over the years, and just every time you hear them on the radio, they're great sing-along tracks. I mean, they've all got great hooks, they're great written songs, and that's what I think makes AC/DC such a great band, because, I often tell people, okay, you could have a band of 4 or 5 great-looking guys, but if that's all you got, and you really don't have any songs that people are going to remember, you're not going to go that far,
Yeah, right. There's got to be substance, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why bands, like Queen, AC/DC, even a band like Kiss, people say, oh, these guys, they really can't play their instruments. But you know what? They're great songwriters. They write great hooks. People remember these songs,
Exactly. Sing along, something that people can just latch on to.
And that's the one thing, if you've ever been to an AC/DC concert, is you can agree with me on it, that anybody, no matter how many times they've heard AC/DC, an AC/DC song, everybody in the crowd is singing along. Everybody knows, has at one time or another heard an AC/DC song or two. I mean, there are people that aren't as big of fans as we are, but I mean, who hasn't heard Highway to Hell? Who hasn't heard Back in Black? I mean, I bet anybody you run into, they can pretty much name at least 1 or 2 AC/DC songs.
Whole Lot of Rosie.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. And another great Australian band, there was this band out of Australia also called Rose Tattoo.
Oh, Rose Tattoo, man. Nice Boys Don't Play Rock and Roll.
Yeah, and I tell you, I always thought that guy sounded so, he had a real AC/DC thing going to his voice,
Angry Anderson.
Yeah.
Angry Anderson. Yeah, man, that is a great band.
Yeah.
And they've always, I felt, kind of fell under the radar for a simple fact that, hey, AC/DC is the king of Australian, rock.
Right? I thought they were kind of like AC/DC with slide guitar, man. They were really good. More of a punk edge, too. Yeah,
and another guy I thought would have, especially before they decided to go with Axl Rose, another guy I always thought could kind of fit into AC/DC was Jason McMaster. He's a singer from, of course, Dangerous Toys. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But, AC/DC is one of those bands that they...
Were they actually looking at him? Because he would have fit killer.
I don't know if they were, but I thought myself, because, I mean, Dangerous Toys, or if you ever listen to any of his other bands, he's got a real gritty voice, and I think he could really, I think, cover a lot of that Bond stuff.
He used to be in a band back in the day in Austin called Watchtower.
Oh, yeah, and I heard some of his stuff. It was, like, heavy. I mean, it's a lot heavier than Dangerous Toys. I mean, it was hardcore almost. I would definitely call it metal.
Yeah, he's definitely a great singer, man, for sure.
And I forget the guy's name, but speaking of Watchtower, the guitar player that was in that band, I mean, man, I don't know whatever happened to him, but he could really do his stuff. He could play some fiery leads, I tell you that.
Yeah, that was what you was...
Yeah, Watchtower, you're talking about the band, I was just saying...
I'm thinking his name, man. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, you and me both, but that's all right. And now, AC/DC, like, especially the Brian Johnson era, they got more and more into making videos. Like, I think there was a video, obviously, for Let There Be Rock, and there was a video, I think, or two from Highway to Hell. But
right.
they really got into making those videos, like, in the 80s with the Brian Johnson stuff. What did you guys think as they started getting into the music video business?
It was cool because you kind of got to see them more, and the way that they were interpreting the song, so you got to realize how they were interpreting it so that you could interpret it the same way.
Yeah.
It was kind of bringing you closer to your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing about AC/DC. That's why I'm so excited to hear that they're putting a new album out. I think it's supposed to come out sometime, obviously between now and I think the end of the year, maybe even early next year. But Planets are going to take it on the road maybe one last time. And AC/DC for the last few years, they've become one of those bands that kind of can live off their own catalog of music. And if they'd never done another new song, I mean that would be cool with the fans. But hey, what a cool way to go out and give your fans like one more dose of like a new album or something.
Right, because they're getting up there, man. I mean,
yeah,
they've been getting it off since they were young. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, as far as the music videos, man. I mean, that's how I actually saw them for the first time. Like, my first video I saw them was Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
And this is when I was starting to get into them. And I didn't actually see them. I would just listen to their records and look at like the album covers and all the pictures and stuff. My first video of them was Thunderstruck, and I was hooked on it, man. Like, Angus was just my world, and just everything about the band was.
See, that's a great song. I also loved that was off of Razor's Edge. I also loved the other track off that was Money's Talk. But Thunderstruck, that was like the first single. So with that album, that was the first thing anybody saw of AC/DC. And as I'm sure you guys will remember in the video, Angus, like you saw the guy, he was like all over the stage. He was on the floor. He was everywhere. And it's like you watch and you think, man, what that guy must do in concert. He's kind of like for anybody who never seen Jimi Hendrix, you watch that guy how he played live. He played the guitar with his teeth. He played with his back to the audience. I mean. That's another thing about these videos. It was just an extra visual that maybe somebody'd never seen the band in concert. Oh, okay, that's what Angus Young looks like. That's what the band looks like live. Cool.
Right, brought you all the more closer. That was the really cool thing about it. Because you didn't see them for a little while after the Paris, the Let There Be Rock movie that they made with Bon. Bon passed. Yeah. And then the first videos that you saw, they did a video for Back in Black. And they started doing some fun videos for like Girls Got Shook Me All Night Long.
Yeah. And I think they even did a new video for Shook Me All Night Long when they did the Who Made Who album, because I think they released that as an album. And again, see, that's the thing, when they released the Who Made Who song, they also did that they re-released Shook Me All Night Long. And a lot of people thought they had no idea that was a classic AC/DC song. I mean, people that were young at the time, just teenagers, thinking this is a new AC/DC tune. But no, they just re-released it, and kind of like what Queen did with Bohemian Rhapsody back in 1992 when Wayne's World came out. They re-released that, and people who had never heard it before just latched onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap this up, because I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and I could talk all night, but.
Us too, Jason.
But knowing that you guys are such diehard ACD fans, maybe down the line would be a cool idea if you guys might want to consider. We talk a lot about Highway to Hell, obviously, because 2019 is the 40th anniversary of that. But we also were talking a little bit about the Let There Be Rock album and movie. I'd like to maybe down the line do a separate interview on that. That'd be a lot of fun, I think, to talk about.
Oh, great, man! I would love to talk about that flick. Yeah.
And before we wrap this up, tell everybody out there listening to this, what's currently going on in Baker's Dozen? I know you guys you released the album a couple of months back. How's that going? People responding to that?
Yeah, man, we're getting a lot more love. More radio stations all over are starting to spin the single No Shame, and we're starting to catalog songs for the second album. And we just had a show last Friday opening for Bowflex.
Oh, how cool is that? That's a pretty cool band. But now, I think the audience between Boba Flex and you guys are quite diverse. Obviously, it's a metal kind of hard rock thing going for both bands. But again, you guys have more of a punk element. So what was that like?
It was good. There's a lot of we played with a lot of our friends as well. There's a couple of local bands there too. So I mean, there's a lot of love.
And that's what I think is great again about you guys being on a label like Pavement, because the fact that you can go out and do a show with a band like Bobaflex, I mean, again, there's a lot of crossover fans there, so it's kind of cool that maybe some of their fans have never heard of you guys will check you guys out, and that's pretty good opening band. Let's go get their album. And on that note, I also noticed that I don't know if you guys mind me saying this, but I noticed that anybody who wants to check out Baker's Dozen, I mean, pretty much, I went on YouTube, I typed in Baker's Dozen, and pretty much all the songs on the album, are available. People want to go check it out, I guess. But how do you feel about that?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we want to get our music out to the masses, man. We'd rather, if there's going to be anything financially gained or whatever, we'd rather go out to their tour and make just a little bit of scratch. But as far as our music being out there, it's all over the place.
You really can't control that, I guess, but
no, you can't control that, man. So I mean, I don't think we're really that worried about it.
And I'm sure there are diehard fans that go out and see the band live, and when they go to the merch booth, they pick up a CD or whatever, maybe a T-shirt, and that's cool too. But are you guys finding that people are buying just as many physical copies of the CD, or are you finding more people are buying it digitally?
We actually are getting a lot of people that want the physical copies. That actually have both.
Mm-hmm. That's cool because in today's modern world, a lot of people they got that thing where they want everything like immediately right now, or even to the fact that I don't want to buy the whole album. I'll just buy the single, or I'll buy one or two songs for 99 cents. I'm an old school guy. I personally like to have a physical copy in my hand. I like to look at the artwork. I like to maybe look.
Liner notes, man. Liner notes and lyrics, bro. I'm all about that.
Yeah. See, it's funny you say that, Tommy, because I remember back in the day when I was growing up, that's the first thing you do. You look at the liner notes. You maybe see if there are any additional musicians who wrote the songs, and
right. I mean, stars and what they're actually saying in the songs to make sure that.
It's funny you say that because I remember buying albums and CDs back in the day, and I still buy CDs because, like I said, I like to have a physical copy. But I remember when I was much younger, a teenager and all that, like a lot of Aerosmith songs, the way Steven Tyler sings, and even these AC/DC tunes, a lot of times you can't understand what they're saying. I like, okay, what's this guy saying? I go and okay, cool. Now I know what he's saying.
Jason, the top three for me that way, because I had to decipher many words, were Steven Tyler, Ozzy Osbourne, and Bon Scott. It's like, what the fuck are you saying?
yeah. And Steven Tyler, he's just one of those vocalists that he can do it all. But I mean, even like stuff like off of Permanent Vacation, that was like their comeback album in '87. You listen to even something like "Dude Looks Like a Lady." Okay, I get "Dude Looks Like a Lady," but there are a dozen other lyrics in that song. What the hell is he saying?
Right.
Yeah. And so once again, thanks guys for taking time to talk to me.
Absolutely, anytime, bro.
And I'll let you know when the interview posts. And once it does, you're more than welcome to post on any of your sites, or just tell your friends to come check it out, and we'll do the same. So thanks so much, you guys. You take care, okay?
Jason, pleasure, man.
Thank you, man.
Okay, bye-bye.